Okay. Well, first and foremost, thank you, Dr. Roy, for inviting me into this prestigious event. Fellow speakers, distinguished guests, and all protocols observed. Thank you for having me here. Congratulations, first and foremost, for your fourth International Integration Day, the first anniversary of the Centre for Commonwealth Research, and obviously the launch of the Hate Crime Awareness Week. As a brief background, for the last 10 years, I've been very fortunate to travel to over 58 countries, having a look at the human experience behind identity. What started off as a way of journalism has now turned itself into a movement, where we predominantly have a look at people of different origins, mainly that of India, to have a look at what's it like to be us in the newfound countries that we call home. The important thing about our work is that we really don't care about the arbitrary factor of skin color, something that so far has had a large number of identity politics put towards it. What we have a look at is saying, well, what's it like to be in the fragility of a form of a human being? And what's it like in those countries? And what are the distinguishing features that really make us human there? This has taken us up to countries such as Sierra Leone during the Ebola crisis. I was fortunate enough to meet with the president, but also understand the new levels of corruption that took place there. But along those lines, I got to meet with people on the ground. Same thing happened in KL, in Malaysia, hearing about the hate crimes that were starting to rise itself up on that side, through to looking towards places like Ethiopia, where I had the privilege to meet with Meles Zenawi to understand more about his vision at that time towards Greater Africa, and understanding a lot more about the fears that people have. What I'll do is keep this discussion very succinct towards my experiences in the Commonwealth, vast majority of the countries that I have been to, and places where I'm lucky enough to have people that I call friends, more so to enjoy the human experience there. Places such as Guyana, where one of our ambassadors is the former president of Guyana, Donald Ramotar, where I got to see the brutality, unfortunately, of what the election process took place, and how as people, not of Indian origin, not of African origin, but as human beings, we have taken this beauty that is the sanctity of humanness, and we found ways to divert ourselves and to create hate in areas where there should be love. One thing that I have seen across my travels in the different countries, from being held hostage or dealing with hurricanes in the Caribbean, is that there is a beauty in the form of humanness. But unfortunately, sometimes we often see the world as we are, not the way in which the world is. And I think that's a very important part in order for us to all understand of. Because when we look towards the United Kingdom or Europe at times of Brexit, or times, unfortunately, where we are seeing the shifting sands in Afghanistan, we often see the world painted in images that are only cognizant of our own upbringing. I believe along our journeys and the many people that we had the pleasure of meeting with, those who are rich, poor, those who hold power and those who feel powerless, is that the guiding force between us all has always been that we all want to have a sense of validation. More importantly, we all want to have a sense of being, a sense of love, a sense of feeling a unique connection to one another. And I dare say if we cannot do that with our own species, I don't know how we survive and fit to be able to go elsewhere. I know Maria is based in Malta, a country that is very close to my heart. The former ministers there also sit on our board as well. And from Valletta through to St. Julian's Bay, you see the diversity that Malta in itself offers. And I see some other guests are right the way across the globe. The person that he's supposed to be speaking, Dr. Kumar, is a dear friend in Trinidad, where we have our own ambassadors on that side. One thing I would say in my own meandering experiences, going from country to country and meeting with the different ebbs of society, is that if we were to go forward with our humanness first, and again, put aside the arbitrary factor of skin color, or our perceptions of religion, or that of caste or creed, what we start to see is that in a world where we place a great reliance on the integrity of leadership, that the real leadership that is needed now is in our own lives as people, not of that of people of Indian origin, not of that of Africa or Europe, or that we consider to be of different ethnicities, but as humans. I dare say from my talks with the Commonwealth, where we had a look at the real impact of things like climate change, that we place far too much emphasis on aspects such as content, rather than having a look at the context in which we find ourselves. We find clever ways in which to describe the world in weird, wacky ways that I don't think any other species will ever consider. But what we do find is that we have overcomplicated the systems. As a unit, as a Global Indian series, we often do writing and we talk about some of the biggest issues taking place in the globe. We're very fortunate to have a podcast that comes out on a weekly basis. We have people of all echelons of society participating in, from heads of states through to those who are on the borderline versions of addiction. And what we found within those conversations has been a backdoor entrance into what humanness is. Again, taking away the arbitrary factor of skin color or perceptions of ethnicity, which I dare say are traditions of the dead, rather than where we're heading to right now. What we've also noticed with the work that we've done with our ambassadors, people who take up gay rights in India, through to those who are dealing with the ferocities of identity politics in the Caribbean, is that united, we really do want to see a better world. And that better world starts with us all accepting the fragility within our own forms. Unfortunately, I did say to the dear doctor, I could only be here for a short space of time because I did have a prior engagement thrusted upon me. So I do have to leave soon, but I would love to be able to talk more about in depth the journeys that we've been on. But to leave you there, we have seen the highs and lows of the world in the last 10 years. We've been very fortunate to meet with, again, not just heads of states or those who grace our TV, those who speak lofty ideals to get our votes, but to actually meet with those who are in desperate need, whose existences truly do reflect the pains and the ills within our society that we need to really deal with. I dare say when we have a look at the immigration problems that we're seeing in the United Kingdom, that the symptom of that is not people of different ethnicities or religious values, but is our lack of empathy and the fact that we've allowed our humanness to disappear and we have replaced it with almost a robotic nature in which we look at each other as commodities. I dare say this type of thought system that has now ingrained itself within society has not been there in other countries that I've been to. And maybe as a United Kingdom, we can take lessons to be learned from other parts of the Commonwealth, maybe smaller countries like Nevis in the Caribbean, where people still have the audacity, I dare say, in places like London to say good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Who operate with a fear or favor. All the lessons to be learned in places, again, like Fiji, who unfortunately we did see this rise in ugly intolerance that came through, but somehow community leaders came together. Or other countries such as Sierra Leone, that after the civil wars, the things that they achieved there, despite the fact there is high levels of corruption and that Ebola brought out the worst, not just in the country, but globally, through the criminality that took place. But there's lessons there that we can all learn as a Commonwealth. I shall end it there to say I think it is a privilege to be a human being. It's a privilege to be in front of you. And despite our notions of differences, we are uniquely similar. And if we take politics aside, we all feel love. We all unfortunately feel the pains of hate, but we all truly want to feel validated in this short experience that we call humanness. And within there, I think lies the ability for us to unite together and make a real significant difference. If you'd like to find out more about our work, obviously you can go to our website, which is globalindianseries.com. I'd love to find out more about the fantastic work that you're doing. And whilst I am a tourist now, back in my own country, the United Kingdom, because of COVID, starting to recognize the raindrops in London, so I've been here for that long. I'd love to find out more about the great work that you're doing. I'd love to offer our support and hopefully have your support in the world in which we love to create. Thank you very much for inviting me here. I'm very sorry I couldn't spend more time, but I do need to leave, unfortunately. Wishing you all well.